Welcome to the Mamaverse, the ultimate self-care experience for every mom. So in the Mamaverse, you can join a team, pick your self-care and wellness activities, earn points, and unlock rewards. This is a private, fun community where moms could dedicate time for themselves, do self-care and wellness. So my name is Tuhi, and I'm going to be hosting these IG Live events 2 to 3 times a week, where I bring in experts in various categories of wellness, from physical wellness, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So today our topic is how to get the most out of your morning routine with an amazing friend of mine, guest Lauren Donahue. And hey, Lauren.
Hello, good morning.
Hi. Lauren,
Hi.
I don't remember the last time I talked to you, maybe like a year, maybe, or more ago.
Yeah,
I was just about to do an intro of you, but do you want to go ahead and do this intro? I just hyped you up and said you're amazing and you do so many things. Like, I can't wait.
cool. Yeah. So I love to start my day with a smile. That's a little tidbit I got from my grandfather before he passed in October. So I ran with it. I added it to the tagline for our coffee company, which is Laleigh Coffee. Lauren and Raleigh, my grandfather's name, put together, and we donate to
Oh,
Parkinson's Foundation, which today, April 11th, is Parkinson's Awareness Disease Day, and this whole month is Parkinson's Awareness Month. But it's really special that we're having this conversation today.
oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, I wanted to mention to everybody that's watching, listening, that Lauren, I'm like reading your bio right now. You created this Unplugged Mornings, which is the 9-step process to help individuals disconnect to reconnect to their true self. You hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. We're gonna have to talk about that.
Yeah.
You opened and sold your own fitness studios. You've been featured in all these media like publications, and you found time to start your own coffee company.
I don't have the answers. I don't have the answers on how that's all possible. But I can tell you probably how we got to this point here. So it's going to be a fun conversation.
Oh my gosh. So, Lauren, were you always into like health, fitness, and wellness?
Yes, I think from the time I could walk, my grandfather put a basketball in my hands. And so I was always playing some sport. Again, I'm from Kansas, so there's not much else to do there besides play sports and be outside. And so I played softball, basketball, volleyball, pole vault, track, anything.
Oh, that's
From a
fun.
very, very young age, I was doing all of those. So I would say it was in my blood. And when I came to California, the first thing I noticed is that I lost my identity because I was no longer a part of a team. And
Mm.
so the first thing I needed to do was be a part of a team again. And I joined a football league and a volleyball league and a softball league. And I felt like I was back. But I knew that it worked for me and my mental health being active like that. So I wanted to help other people do that. So that's when I decided to become a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and that led to a lot of other things as well.
So, how long were you doing personal training, group fitness before you opened up your own studio?
Let's see, I started that right away in 2009. So I would say about 6 years that I was
Mm.
doing training before deciding to partner with a franchise. So a lot of people have probably heard of F45.
Mm-hmm.
And they were a brand born out of Australia. And I originally got connected with the founders because they were looking for a project manager to bring F45 to the US. And so that's what I helped them do, is
Ah.
to bring F45 to the US and help them open several of the first studios here, and then decided to own a couple myself with some business partners. And so that's kind of how that was born. It was really beautiful.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so you were one of the first movers for the F45 studios.
For the US, yes.
Ah, super cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So then from owning your own studio, what made you decide to sell it and move on to what was next after that?
Yeah, so after that, and this is like full transparency, with my business partners, we just had different values. I'm like a very charity driven, as you can tell, I'm like Parkinson's Foundation. We donate every bag of coffee, like we donate to Parkinson's. I'm currently running a mile a day for 13 days with a friend in Boston, leading up to the Boston Marathon that she usually runs. So together combined, a mile a day, we will have ran a marathon, and we're also raising money for Parkinson's during these 13 days as well.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So yes, I'm very charity focused, and it was a very corporate setting. And so there wasn't a lot of room for the things that like bring me the most joy. And so I sold my part to my partners and decided I really wanted to be able to do stuff on my own and have my own business where I got to make decisions, where we can donate as much money as we want to charity, and keep smiles on people's faces. I think, I have smiles on my fingernails too.
Oh, I love it.
How fun.
I love it.
But yeah, so after that, I decided to start my own company called Unplugged. That's where the disconnect to reconnect comes from. That came from, in 2014, an experience of living in a cave for 60 days with
Okay, we need to talk about that too.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that too.
Yeah, it's so funny to think about the fact that you actually can survive without outlets. Think about how many things we plug into every single day, thinking that we need to plug. In my room, I have 3 fans plugged in right now because I think I can't sleep without my biggest fans. I have my computer plugged in, my phone plugged in, like curling iron to do the hair,
Girl,
lights, right?
You should see my light set up here. I've got like 4 lights in front of me just for this live.
But we don't need it because 60 days living without one outlet, couldn't plug into anything.
So, okay, let's back up here. What did living in the cave for 60 days come first before Mount Kilimanjaro?
Yes.
And this was part of your entire journey of discovering Unplugged?
Yeah, leading to Unplugged. Because
okay.
In that setting, so that was January 2014, and someone from my co-ed softball team anonymously, and it's still to this day anonymous, no one has come forward to admit this, submitted me to this show that was called The Fierce Competitor, and you would compete for $100,000. And they had written, Lauren needs somewhere to unleash her inner competitive nature, not on the co-ed softball team. So I'm like, obviously someone from my team, and it could have been at the time my boyfriend. And I was just, it's so funny, but no one wants to admit it because of what ended up happening with this show, which is, I thought I was going on to this show where I'd be hiking mountains and jumping out of airplanes and come back in the best shape of my life. And it couldn't have been more opposite, which cue the actual name of the show that they were keeping very secretive, and it was called Opposite Worlds. So there was half of us living in the past in a cave, and half of the people were living in the future, like a futuristic home that they could like press buttons and talk to and get whatever they wanted. And we were separated by a glass wall. So we could literally see everything that they had that we didn't. And they could obviously see like the conditions that we were living in. So it was like a social experiment.
Where was this cave?
It was in Louisiana, in the middle of a cow pasture.
So we're talking like
yeah.
Okay, hot and humid?
No, actually, when we first arrived January 1st, it was like a polar vortex. It was like negative 13 degrees, sleeting, ice, rain. We're frozen and we're in a cave. Like it was so hard to stay warm. There were 6 of us that were in the cave, and there was only one fire, and it was in like this tiny little area. So one person would be by the fire until the 6th person over here was frozen, and they would rotate up to the fire, and everyone would like move throughout the night so people could thaw out. Like you were actually like your lips were blue, you're coughing up blood, like freezing. So it was very cold in the beginning, like January, February. But as it got into March, it started to like warm up and be mosquitoes and bug bites, and like you had bites all over your body, and you couldn't get ointment to like help with the itching. It was wild experience.
Oh my gosh. So I'm guessing you just had a lot of time to soul search and like think and meditate and discover yourself.
1 hour in the cave was like 1 month. Like it was so much time because there was no distractions. You were just there with yourself and conversation, human connection. We had 6 of us that were living there together. So it reminded me about how powerful human connection was and how that can keep you alive. Like without those people, you actually felt like I might not make it because you're so malnourished. I lost like 30 pounds like pretty quickly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so you're just like, whoa, this is like for real. Like we're really like surviving in here together.
Oh my gosh. So then, so Mount Kilimanjaro is like completely different.
Yeah.
You're
And
just
what's
like,
cool,
you know what? I need more excitement in my life. I'm gonna go hike Mount Kilimanjaro.
after that experience, because by the end of it, which is really wild to say, no one really wanted to leave. We're like, this is awesome. No one has connection with us from the outside world. Like, this is our reality now. We don't have to answer emails or text messages or phone calls or do anything we don't want to do, right? But one of the girls in the cave with me, now we just had this experience together. We were like, what are we going to do when we get out of here? Let's hike Kilimanjaro and like do it unplugged and not take our phones with us. And so we went to Africa for 21 days or maybe a month. Didn't have phone service or anything like that. So and that's back, I don't even think you had like apps and stuff on the phone then. And I don't know if I even took my phone, to be honest. We had a real camera. So we like had some pictures from that. But other than that, we were just there. It was a 7-day hike. That was another life-changing experience where we didn't think we were going to make it at the top. And then after that, we went on a 10-day safari, and then we went into the villages and saw how the people were living there and provided some support there. And then went to Zanzibar to like finish it off and be like, let's have a vacation from our adventure.
That sounds very, very exciting. So how did you finally eventually get to the idea of the unplugged mornings? And how did you like bring that to life?
Yeah, what's really cool is it was during a time in my life where I gave myself a challenge to run a mile a day. So full circle, I'm on day 8 of that now. The last time I did this was so this is about a few years after the cave. It was either 2017 or 18. Something happened, either burnout or adrenal fatigue, but I started having anxiety and panic attacks, like really bad, to where I was driving on the 405, had to pull over, thought I was dying, call 911, ambulance came. I'm like, this is it. Called my mom. I'm not a dramatic person. I'm like, this is it. I just want to say goodbye. Like it was so intense. And for the next 4 months, I wasn't able to leave the house, drive my car, do anything that I used to be able to do. I felt like a 90-year-old woman. I felt like I was in this body, but I was like 90 years old. I was afraid to do anything or talk to anyone.
Were you working at this time as entrepreneur?
Where was I at this time? I believe I had the gyms at this time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see how that can get stressful too.
Yeah, but I don't know what the actual thing was. But after 4 months of not working out for the first time in my life, like even when I was injured, I had broken bones and I would figure out how to work out. So there was like no time in my life where I really took this time off. And also psychologically, this was really good for me because in my brain, if I stopped working out, I was going to gain 400 pounds. Like that's literally how I thought about it. But it was the opposite. I didn't work out and I lost a bunch of weight. And it was so crazy too. And this is why there's so many like unhealthy things that we say to people during that time. When people would see me, they're like, wow, you look amazing. What are you doing? I was doing nothing. Like I wasn't eating or like working out. So then that got in my head too. Like I look amazing when I don't eat and I don't work out, right? As opposed to like when I work really hard to work out and look a certain way, no one says anything. So it's just like a lot of awareness during this time too. But one day I woke up and I heard, you got to run. Like you got to go, you got to move. And I was like, got to run back home to Kansas, got to move back. I didn't really put it together, like physically run. Cause in my head, I'm like, there's no way I'm actually going to run.
Yeah.
But I did. I laced up my sneakers. I left the house, and I ran and I cried and I couldn't breathe and I coughed up blood. And I was like, I'm not stopping. Like, I'm going to keep doing this every single day. I didn't have a 30-day, 60-day plan. So I ended up running myself back to health. And I ran for 444 days in a row, a mile a day. No matter what, I did it. And I got back my mental health. I healed myself. I didn't take any of the prescription medication that was like subscribed at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's because they couldn't tell me actually what was wrong. Like they couldn't tell me the root of what was actually going on. Like all my blood tests, everything kept coming back good. So like when you're prescribing me different like medication, it's like for what? Like
Mm-hmm.
what is the thing? I don't know. And we
Yeah.
never got to that. So I just kept running. Like Forrest
Yeah.
Gump.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a whole nother conversation about like getting prescribed medicines to treat symptoms without finding the root cause.
Root. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But I
A
mean, I'm
whole
glad
nother.
you're a whole nother IG
Yeah.
live on that, but I'm glad you were able to find your way out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what
And
is the 9-step process?
yeah, so it was while I was running that came to me about, okay, what was it about the cave and Kilimanjaro and some of these other experiences where I felt so alive, where I felt like I knew my purpose, I knew who I was and why I was here, and it was just very empowering. And it was when I was unplugged. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
well, I can't tell people to go live in a cave or go hike Kilimanjaro to like find their purpose. But I can create a 9-step practice to help people disconnect or reconnect back to themselves every single morning, because I believe all of these are daily practices. And so I use the word unplugged, and this is something my grandpa would do. He always had acronyms and different ways to memorize things. I was like, okay, what can people do every morning? First thing when they wake up, before they reach for the device, the distractions, the noise, the world that can like truly throw you off and put you in a reactive space versus a responsive space, what can you do? And so those 9 steps, connecting to self and breath, like universe, right? And that's different for everyone.
Mm.
The word is different for everyone. But box breathing, it's something I do every single morning just to like get myself into a really beautiful space. And then nourish. So I'm drinking my Laleigh coffee right now, black with nothing in it. I nourish like relationships. I will write handwritten. I have all these handwritten cards over here. I write handwritten cards, thank you cards, thinking of you cards. Nourishing your mind. Maybe you listen to a meditation or music or something like that. And then play. So I write down like how I'm going to play that day, whether that's like go out and just dance in the sun or dance around, like so many different ways to play. Learn. What am I going to learn today? I'm reading certain books. I have a book a month that I do. And then unleash, something that I'm holding on to that I get to let go of, that I get to forgive
Mm.
in myself or someone else. And then the 2 G's, gratitude and generosity. So I write down 3 to 5 things I'm grateful for, get myself into an abundant mindset versus scarcity mindset. Generosity, I write down one way I'm going to be generous for another human that day. And a lot of times, because of that intention, that human appears. So it might be someone looking for directions. And instead of me keeping my headphones in and going past them, even though I know they look confused and they need help, then I'll
Mm-hmm.
stop and I'll give my time. Maybe I'll donate to a charity. So many different ways, right? Buy someone's coffee, just ways to be generous every single day. And you do it more than one time a day, but when you set the intention, I just feel like the people appear that need you.
Mm.
And then exercise, right? Movement, run a mile a day, stretch, yoga, HIIT, whatever is in your practice, and then declare. I think there's a huge difference between affirmations and declarations. Affirmations are we're saying something that actually hasn't happened yet. So there is like a little thing in our head that goes, this might be BS. I don't really believe this, right? And 1% of doubt is 100% uncertainty. So a declaration is this hasn't happened yet, but I'm declaring that it will happen. It's like an action board versus a vision board. And so I declare the things that this will be an amazing interview today. This will be an amazing conversation today, and we will impact a life by something that is said in this conversation. So those kind of declarations.
Yeah.
And those
Oh
are the
my
9
gosh.
steps. And you can do it quick in 9 minutes.
I love that. I just wrote that. I wrote that down. Your declaration and your action board instead of a vision board.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And the topic of today is how to get the most out of your morning routine. And I think a lot of people think like you need like this through 2 hours in the morning when you can barely wake up, on time.
Yeah.
Are you like a morning person? Like, are you up like super early?
So I would say I have seasons of it. I went on
Me too.
I went on a trip, I think in 2014 too, like an unplugged trip. And because of the time difference, when I got back, I was getting up at like 4:30 every morning. And I used to not think I was a morning person. So I declared like, I am a morning person. And I moved into being a morning person. And when it really comes down to it, I am happier when I get up earlier because I get more things done before 8 a.m., right? And then there's times where I go to the East Coast and I come back and whatever happens where now I get up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, right? Just depending when I go to bed. Sleep is number one for me over nutrition and exercise. I feel like if I don't have my sleep right, then the other things I can't get right either. So 8 hours is my goal. If I go to bed at 1, then I'll get up at 9. If I go to bed at 10, then I'll get up at 6. So I just set my alarm for 8 hours from whenever I go to bed.
I agree. I love me a good morning routine. And I think for me, I know the number one way to get rocked is to reach for my phone because my phone is my alarm. Yeah. So now I'm starting to like test with other like analog, like a real alarm clock because it's so easy to get pulled into, let me just open up WhatsApp. Let me just open up my email. And then you're like, all of a sudden you're kind of like thrown off. Yep. Right. So you'd have to be even more intentional, put even more work into your morning routine to bring back to you. Yeah. Versus being reactive.
Totally. And the thing is, we can't unsee it. Once you've seen it, you've seen it. Once you read it, it's in there. Even if you're trying to meditate after that or read after that, you keep going back to, I forgot to send that thing. I said I had that deliverable and I didn't deliver, right? So we can't go back. And a lot of times too, I find that if I go there first before filling my cup, like I like to fill my cup, serve from the overflow and fill that with love, joy, acceptance, abundance, all that. So I pour that out onto others. But if I don't, I find that I am in a place of like, don't you know that I'm busy? What do you mean? Like, all these things, like, you don't know what's going on in my life. Like and then if I do all my stuff first and come back, it's the same text. Like it didn't change, but I'm responding with love versus reacting out of like, you should know type of thing. So I know hands down 100% when I do my morning routine, I'm a happier, healthier, more responsive, like loving person than when I don't, because I'm then trying to pour from an empty cup.
And I know that's something that sometimes is hard for especially moms who are like super busy and tired. That's why I think it's good to find a routine, one that works for you and your lifestyle, but doesn't have to take like an hour. Right. It could take 20 minutes. Like you said, your 9-step 9 minutes. Yep. And just in those 9 minutes going through, I'm thinking like, even if you go through half of the steps, that's better than none. Yeah. Right. Or
spend 9 minutes on one. Like, you could do however it works for people. I don't say you have to go in the same order or that you have to do all of them every day. It could just be one if you just did breath work. But the main thing is waking up before you grab for the device, before you plug into the world, that you plug into yourself. And you're even telling yourself like you matter, you're important, you're a priority, like over all of these other things. So it doesn't make them any less important. It's just, that you are so important. And you will get to all those things. Like nothing's changing if you respond in the first 1 minute from when you wake up, right? Right. You woke up 10 minutes later. Like what's the difference?
Right. Yeah. I think that's like a really like important thing to keep in mind. And then you'll just feel better, right? Yeah. Coming from a place of like, I have control and I choose to respond to you with a better attitude, with love, like with like empathy than like, what do you want? Like, I'm busy, like, exactly like you said.
And then you feel bad later. You're like, like later you feel better and you're like, I wish I wouldn't have said that. I wish I would have just waited a little bit longer so that you can come from a place of like your true self, right? Not a reactive self and one that's like tired, hungry, like all the things. It's like fill up, nourish yourself, and then you'll be able to nourish others.
Yeah. So Lauren, let's talk about your coffee brand. Yeah. When did you launch this?
Yep. So I actually had the idea last March. So it's been over a year since I had the idea, and it was because my Instagram account got hacked. And I do a lot of brand partnerships. I promote all of my retreats, everything. All of my income really comes through Instagram. So like overnight, it was gone. Basically, like if I had a brick and mortar, it just burned down to the ground, and you're like, oh shoot, what am I going to do? I can't even follow through. I love it. Hi. On the things that I have like contracts for. So I sat down to do my unplugged morning, right? I sat down to do my unplugged morning, have my coffee, journal. And as I was like looking at my coffee, I could hear my grandpa in the back of my head saying, the cream will always rise to the top. And he used to say that all the time when I was growing up, and I would be so annoyed, you know, because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how long do I have to like wait for it to like rise to the top? And all these other people are getting what I want. And, you know, but he was just like, listen, a lot of times people will get to the top very quickly, and sometimes they deserve it, and sometimes they lie, cheat, steal, step on people to get there, and it won't be sustainable long term. They don't get to stay up there when they do it that way. He's like, but when you do it out of integrity and with patience, and you show up for people and you tell the truth, like, it might take a lot longer, but when you get there, you get to stay there. And so I was thinking of this, like, the cream will always rise to the top. And I was like, coffee, that's what I'll do. Start a coffee company. I'll start a podcast. I'll promote the coffee on the podcast, and then I don't need Instagram.
Yeah.
So
Melissa says, my mom says the same, said that too. A great
Oh.
saying. I love that.
It's my favorite. I love it so much.
it.
I think about it every single time I start to be like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. I'm like, the cream will always rise to the top, and it'll be better than you could imagine at the top. I love that, Melissa. Yeah. So so I had the idea, and I just started doing all the research, how to start a coffee company, where do I get the beans, how do I make sure the farmers are taken care of and paid well, and you know. So I started having all these conversations, and it was about and coffee tasting. Like, I was drinking coffee all day, every day. And I would say it was like end of July that we launched officially, like went live, which was super cool because throughout those 4 to 5 months, we had 4 different names for the coffee company. We kept running up against trademark stuff, and I just didn't want, like, I wanted to own the brand, and I didn't want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that. And so then I ended up, after having Cornerstone Coffee, Higher Love Coffee, there was another one in there. I was like, oh my gosh, Lauren and Laleigh. That's my grandpa's name. So it came back to him. I'm like, he had the idea for the coffee company in the first place. He planted it. And so
did he want to open up a coffee company?
No, but him, like, that the cream will always rise.
Oh yeah.
It's like it came in there because of him. And also the tagline of the coffee company, start your day with a smile, is something that he said to me. So he's all over the brand. I'm like, okay, well, let's do the first roast and call it the Raleigh Roast, and we'll donate to Parkinson's Foundation. And yeah, so he's like been with me every step of the way. He actually got to be the first taste tester of the Raleigh Roast. He didn't fully understand what was going on. He was reading the bag, and I was like, do you recognize anything on the bag? And he's like, well, I'm Raleigh, but I don't know who Roast is.
Aww.
So he was like this, you know, so he got to do that. And then a couple months later, he passed away, which is like I didn't know what grief was until that happened. And I've lost a lot of people, but my grandfather I lived with, and he was my father figure as well. So he was like coach, mentor, friend, dad, grandpa. And it's like, whoa, I lost the whole squad, like, all at once. So yeah, that's been a tough one, but
yeah,
you're with me every single morning. Having coffee with me.
I love that story.
Yeah, that's how it happened.
I love how close you are to your grandfather too, and how he really like motivated you, inspired you, drove you to do a lot of the things you did in life. That's so amazing.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Every single thing that I've ever done, accomplished, has been from his support and encouragement and wisdom. And yeah, I wouldn't be who I am today or doing what I'm doing today without him.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. So how can the people who are watching the replay, how can they like find your coffee?
LaleighCoffee.com. And it's Laleigh spelled like Raleigh, so L-A-L-E-I-G-H, and then coffee.com. Also on my Instagram account, there's a link to the Laleigh Coffee Instagram account, and there's the website in both of those as well. And everything on there is very fun, smiles. And we have actually a Bonnie brew now, which is my grandma. Yeah. And for her, which is really actually cool too, we donate to American Red Cross because she's been giving blood for the last 45 years. And they actually tell you whose life you save with your blood. And she has saved 805 lives. And
that's amazing.
That blows my mind, because here's this little old woman in Kansas that's just saving lives, like hero, right? Doesn't have Instagram, doesn't have social media, but she's just every 2 months, like, take my blood, which is wild because she's almost 90 and she's still doing it.
Oh
And
my God, that's amazing.
so I was like, Grandma, at some point when you're not able to do this, like, you're still going to be saving lives, because now we have the Bonnie Brew and we're donating to American Red Cross in, like, your honor. But yeah, she's
Oh my God, I bet you she
strong.
loves that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she does. She says, actually, I have both of them right here. Team Lauren.
Oh, that's so cute. That's
Yeah,
so
that's when I was on
sweet.
the cave show, because they were watching. I didn't know they were watching. He was in the hospital then. That was in 2014. That was right
Oh,
after his first open heart surgery. But yeah,
oh my gosh.
they were
Well, I
supporting
know
all
that
the way.
they're all super proud of you and all the things you've accomplished and all the amazing things you've done and making such an impact for the world. I love that you created this like really simple, easy to follow 9-step morning routine for people that really anybody could use. And
Yeah.
that you have like a really mission driven coffee brand. I love me a good mission. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Um, but Lauren, I know we're at time, so I don't want to take up like, too much of your time. Everybody who's watching, I please follow Lauren. She is amazing. She shares so many like really valuable and interesting things on our Instagram. Check out our coffee company. Thank you so much for joining the Mamaverse. We loved having you here. This was freaking amazing. That's a comment that we just that
Oh, you're
yes,
so
Lauren.
sweet.
You are inspiring. I loved having you on. Let's not wait another year till we like touch base
I
again.
know. I was like, we
Um,
stay connected through social, but to like have face-to-face contact is
I
so beautiful.
know, I know, and I know I would love to have you in the Mamaverse and do more fun things too.
Yeah,
So,
I love
thank
that.
you so much, Lauren.
Yes, thanks for having me. This is a fun conversation.
I
It made me
know.
smile for sure. So
Thank
hopefully
you.
someone took away a little nugget that goes and changes their life in a beautiful way.
Of course, of course. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.